I worked in advertising for 10 years and then decided to go to graduate school to get my PhD. And I went in ostensibly to do Southern literature, but within the first 2 months decided I was going to dedicate my life to film because I didn't realize two things. One, that film affects me in a really profound way. I mean, everybody talks about, oh, I cry at films, etc. Okay, like I really cry at films. And also films can make me sick and like feel something viscerally. All documentaries are stories. All documentaries tell stories. And in fact, documentaries that don't tell stories, I would say, have kind of an inherent structural problem. And in fact, that's, I think, what gives documentaries their power. How do you avoid creating a boring documentary? Boring documentary. I'm going to guess by boring, you mean, you know, just sort of like the straightforward communication of facts. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Go forth and be educated. Okay, so that's probably slightly boring. So we've got chronology, A, and then we've just got fact, 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 fact. So what is missing? Story is missing. I wanted to share two contemporary documentaries that I think are fantastic. One is The Cove, which won the Oscar a couple years ago, and the other is Exit Through the Gift Shop, which was nominated for an Oscar in 2010 and was robbed. I think it was robbed. So for me, a mockumentary is a fiction film. Now this is like straight up fiction, all created, but that it takes on the attributes of documentary. And so it does this in a sense in order to sort of wrap itself in the robes of documentary's kind of assumptions and conventions. So I am authentic, I am truth-based, I am objective, but I'm talking about the most absurd things possible. So put in your mind some of my favorite films, my favorite mockumentaries, like This Is Spinal Tap, or Best in Show. Pretty much anything that Christopher Guest has done is sort of a mockumentary. A Mighty Wind, I think, is another one that he's done. A mockumentary, it not only calls into question documentary conventions and the assumptions that we give to, oh, documentary, you are so truthful, you are so factual. It calls that into question, but also the fact that what we see on screen may ask us to question what we see around us every day. I think it's interesting actually not to think of these films per se, these contemporary films, these films of Michael Moore as extreme films, because there have been films, documentary films all throughout time that have been extreme in this way, have been very obviously biased. Separating these films as extreme films versus other films like what we might see on the History Channel or Discovery Channel or PBS as like not extreme films, but you know, more sort of normal, conventional kind of films, covers over the fact that these more conventional films are also agenda-driven and are also perspective-based, but are much, much, much more subtle about communicating that perspective. So in my opinion, they can actually become even a little more dangerous, because unless we can really, really have the tools to go in and understand that perspective and where it's coming from, then that perspective just becomes a part of our sort of knowledge base. It's really, really cool to decode film. And so I'm really interested in the formal aspects of film. So I love to look at cinematography and editing and staging and performance and things like that, and actually look at how they create meaning. How they develop particular themes, how they communicate particular perspectives. And so when I saw that you can really begin to unlock all the intricacies of a film, and the fact that all of those intricacies, all of those decisions matter so greatly, then I thought all of a sudden I've taken a step into a universe that's constantly expanding and is always a source of just amazement to me.